Hello, this is how to install the Linux operating system CachyOS with KDE Plasma in a QEMU virtual machine. 2 years ago, I thought that Endeavour OS was going to be just as popular as the Arch Linux parent Linux operating system. But nowadays, CachyOS seems to be the Linux operating system with more user compared to Endeavour OS. So let's find the installation ISO file for this operating system and install it in a virtual machine. Desktop edition. The ISO file has finished downloading. Let's start the virtualization software. We're using Virt Manager Virtual Machine Manager. File, new virtual machine, ISO forward, browse, CachyOS Desktop Linux ISO, choose volume. The virtualization software could not determine a virtual machine template. Arch Linux is a template that's quite up to date. Let's give it ample resources, 10 GB random access memory, 14 vCPUs, 200 GB virtual disk, NVMe, CachyOS in a single word. Customize, finish. Let's go with UEFI. We'll keep the rest of the settings, VirtIO disk, VirtIO network interface card, begin installation. Could not boot, so as similar to Arch Linux, also CachyOS installation ISO does not support secure boot. EFI firmware setup, device manager, secure boot configuration, attempt secure boot, space, enter F10Y, escape a number of times. And we actually want to shut down. So shut down, how do we do that? Force off. Okay, that's because the ISO file has been removed from the settings of the virtual machine when we have restarted the computer. Apply. So let's see, now we have an ISO file inside the SATA CD-ROM. We have the virtual disk, 200 GB. The boot order should be SATA CD-ROM first. And now we should be able to start the virtual machine. So it's going to try to boot from the CD-ROM first in live CD mode. CachyOS. So the installer ISO has booted in live CD mode. It has launched KDE Plasma by default in graphical user interface mode. We're logged into a KDE Plasma session. We can see this first run wizard. And then probably this one, the button to launch the installer. And we are greeted with the familiar installer framework. That's aligned with the KDE desktop, which is the Calamares installer. View resized to VM, such that we don't have any stretching. The pixels look correct. American English, next. New York, next. English US, next. Limine is a bootloader in the same family as the grub. Advanced Portable Multi-Protocol Bootloader. I haven't heard of Limine ever. I haven't used it before. Windows Dual Boot BTRFS. I will keep it because it's the default bootloader, but if I were to actually use this system, I would probably try grub instead. Next. So it detects the correct storage, NVMe virtual disk 200 gigabytes, erase disk. Unfortunately, it prefers BTRFS. I have zero experience with BTRFS. My go-to file system is ext4. Yeah, at this point, I would 99% of times would switch from BTRFS to ext4, but this time it's just an experiment. Let's go with the default BTRFS, ButterFS. So let's see what it says. UEFI boot. We can see it in here. And then it doesn't say if it's GPT partition table. I'm going to guess so. And then for UEFI variables, 200 gigabytes. What am I seeing here? 4 gigabytes FAT32 partition. Looks okay. Next. Okay, what is this? Next. Okay, so this is a package manager for the installer. The default web browser Firefox I like. No other graphical user interface, session, desktop, window manager, etc. except KDE desktop, which is KDE Plasma. Maybe from here you can uncheck to disable the customizations that CachyOS does on top of Arch Linux if you want to somehow install Arch Linux using the CachyOS installer. I'm not exactly sure if that's possible, but with the EndeavourOS installer, you could actually install a plain vanilla Arch Linux operating system. Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm being shown here. Okay, I'll just keep the defaults. Hopefully KDE Plasma is configured correctly. Next. Name. Name of the computer, CachyOS. The same as the name of the virtual machine. Use the same password for the administrator account. What do you mean? Why can't we have sudo without a password for the user root? Oh, so we're forced to have a password for the user root. That's an original idea here. I'm not sure if it's a good one. Next. So this is the final installer wizard page before actually modifying the disks. English US, correct keyboard, America New York, correct partitioning table, GPT. Sounds okay. Let's go with installing. Install now. And let's see more details. CachyOS, a Arch-based distribution. Pacman mirrors. speed test result. So it's comparing the various mirrors to determine which ones is faster. If I remember correctly, when installing Arch Linux, it's really important to select the correct mirror, because otherwise, if you're just accepting a random mirror that might not have all of the Arch packages in the first days after they're published on the very official Arch Linux binary packages repository, or if the speed of that mirror is not that great, then installing could be way slower, installing binary packages, than if you're going to handpick the better Pacman repository mirror. It has installed the KDE Plasma packages, and the installer has finished its job. The fact that we have a restart now option is a good thing. I'm not going to actually restart the computer, I'm going to shut down the computer. So done, and then shut it down. Because when the virtual machine is stopped, I actually want to make sure that the ISO file is no longer in the CD-ROM drive. So this button, apply. So no ISO file inside the CD-ROM drive, and then the rest of the settings can remain unchanged. Eventually this one, to only have the possibility to boot from the NVMe virtual disk. And that should be it. Let's start the virtual machine. Okay, this is the boot loader. Okay, this is the desktop manager, which is probably Plasma login manager. First run wizard, CachyOS hello. Let's see if I can configure KDE Plasma the way I usually use it. So I want to see if there's a terminal built-in, which is console, should be favorited. When I start the start menu, it shows the favorites tab. Console should be there. Let's see the other applications. Firelight, Haruna, video player. Let's make Kate favorite. MPV media player. Micro text editor. Arch package manager Shelly. So interesting, at least 20 extra graphical user interface applications that either I don't know or I haven't seen before or I haven't used before. Alacrity terminal emulator, Bitop++, BTRFS assistant, Cachy update, Systray applet, CachyOS kernel manager, CachyOS package installer, hardware locality ls topo. Okay, the rest are standard KDE Plasma things, such as the KDE Partition Manager console. I actually do use meld, so it's good that it's installed, but then why would you install a visual diff viewer on by default? ShedX GUI Manager, manage SCX schedulers. Whoa. Volume control. Okay, let's see if we can do the rest of the settings. First of all, let's make sure that we have resized the virtual machine. So let's see that we are using the Wayland session, of course. Mouse cursors. 36. Font. Subpixel rendering, RGB full. And edge. Whoa. This is an interesting issue. Screen edges. Apply. Okay, at this point, I'm very, very interested if Arch Linux or CachyOS in general has a KDE Plasma X11 session, because if we have that, then maybe we can install the AUR packages for xrdp and xorg xrdp, and that would be great because we would be able to copy paste from the virtual machine towards the exterior of the virtual machine, for instance, text via clipboard. So let's see how we do that. What was the command line? So I have searched the list of installable packages, pacman minus uppercase s, lowercase s. All of the packages that can be installed and contain Plasma in name, and also 11. And I found Plasma X11 session. Let's see if this thing can be installed. So pacman, update everything. Okay, and let's install this package, Plasma minus X11 minus session. Should depend at least on kwin minus X11. Cool. While installing, I saw that there's probably YAY. Nope. So there is no YAY, but there is Paru. There's no xrdp package, so we'll need to install it from AUR. This is my wiki page and mariusp.github.io. Let's go with the second URL here, how to install Linux. Scroll in there for Arch Linux. Where is it? In here. So I have installed KDE Plasma. I'm logged into KDE Plasma, sudo works, and I should make sure that we have the OpenSSH server both installed and enabled. Let's first see if it's available. SSH with a D. It's there, but disabled by default. Okay, so we need to enable it. Systemctl, enable now, sshd. Unfortunately, copy-paste of text doesn't work between the virtual machine and the exterior of the virtual machine. And that's one of the things that we're going to fix by actually connecting to the virtual machine, not using the virtualization software, but using the remote desktop protocol. Cool, and at this point we should be able to connect using the SSH protocol, network interface card. This is the IPv4 address. Okay, SSH username, administrator at Ctrl+Shift+V. And I also saw UFW, and it's active, which is not great for my use case. We're inside the virtual machine. Let's see if this command line works. UFW, uncomplicated firewall, disable. Status says inactive. Let's try to connect again via SSH, and this time it does work. Yes. We accept that this is actually this computer when we're connected via SSH. Password. Okay. Let's continue with my instructions. We can even log out from the KDE Plasma session. Close window. Okay, and then we go to the RDP part. So it says that YAY is available as a package. Let's test that theory. So pacman minus s uppercase, s lowercase, and then YAY. It's probably there from a special pacman repository named CachyOS. Pacman space minus uppercase s YAY to install the tool. Okay, where am I? And I should not be the user root. Okay, so we did install YAY, we did install the Plasma X11 session, and now we need to run these two command lines, YAY space xrdp, and I want the option 1, AUR/xrdp. I want package to clean build all, uppercase A, diffs to show none, which is probably the default option. Remove make dependencies after install. No. Proceed with installing cmocha nasm. Check. The output from /configure. Okay, so we're going to just build binary packages from AUR for xrdp and another one for xorg xrdp. We're going to install both of these binary packages that YAY builds from source. Then we're going to enable the system service xrdp. And then we're going to configure xrdp such that when we connect remotely via the remote desktop protocol, the KDE Plasma X11 session is started, not anything else. YAY has finished building the binary package xrdp. Do you want to install? Yes. There's optional dependencies, VNC servers. Next up, we want to install the other package, xorg xrdp. I select option 1 for AUR/xorg xrdp. Packages to clean build all. Diffs to show none. Remove make dependencies after install, nope. Adds a digital signature PGP key. Import, yes. We'll install xf86 input lib input and other xorg bits. It fetched the tarball or the release source code tarball for xorg xrdp. Now it's running /configure. This was really fast to build. xorg xrdp package will be installed. And let's enable the xrdp systemd server service. Okay, we should be able to connect remotely. Let's see if this file exists, /etc/x11/xwrapper.config. No such file. Let's see if nano is there. There is. We need to become super user. And then make this file. Both exist /etc/x11/xwrapper.config and have the contents allowed _users space equals space anybody with a trailing new line. Control X, save, Y, enter. And now if we list the content of this file, should be as it's documented here in my tutorial, so allowed _users equals anybody. And then we'll need a configuration file similar to the way you would start the X server without a desktop manager. So in this case, a file named ~/.xinitrc. Let's see if all of these executables exist. So we want start Plasma X11. It's there. And Plasma dbus. It's in there. So /usr/lib/plasma -dbus -run -session -if -needed. So both of these executables exist. And I'm going to guess that this is the content of the file ~/.xinitrc. Let's make sure the file does not already exist, should not exist. It's just a fresh installation of CachyOS. Let's create the file. Let's paste the content of the file. Trailing unit line, Control X, Y, enter. Okay, it should be enough. The xrdp server is already running. Let's actually restart the computer. How do we do that? Sudo space reboot. 5 seconds timeout in the boot loader, which is way too much. the timeout should not be greater than 2 seconds. It's wasting 3 seconds per boot. Okay, the computer, the virtual machine has finished restarting. At this point, we should be able to connect to the virtual machine. Let's see if that just works. This should be the command line. Let's dissect the command line a bit. So xrdp, the username, /administrator, initial resolution 1080p. The IPv4 address ends with 200. /video/rfx/gfx are the best quality for the video. This is the best possible speed /network:/LAN. And this is really important. And this is forwarding the sound from the virtual machine and be played back on the hardware machine. /dynamic -resolution is the fact that when we resize the xFreeRDP RDP client, then KDE Plasma inside the virtual machine will be told to resize to that resolution such that there's no stretching happening. Let's see if everything just works. Let's not forward sound for a while. Okay, and let's clean up this terminal, Ctrl+Shift+V. So again, the command line xFreeRDP space. If you're on Wayland, the name of the executable will probably be WL-FreeRDP. There's 3 executables from the FreeRDP project. xFreeRDP, if you're running an X11 session. WL-FreeRDP if you're inside Wayland. And then there's also SDL-FreeRDP. It should be just one, but for a transitional period, there's 3 different executables. Then the username /u:/administrator means the current work group or domain. And then administrator, the name of the user, /w is the initial width, and then /h is the initial height. /v is the IPv4 address of the computer that we're connecting to. And that should be it. Asks for the password of the user administrator. Do we trust the certificate? Yes, we do. And everything just worked. Fortunately, this is the way I want to use all of my virtual machines and all of the computers that I connect remotely to. I want, if the operating system is Linux, I want to be able to connect via OpenSSH. And if the computer is running Linux and has a desktop environment, and I have a use for desktop environment, then I want to connect using the remote desktop protocol. So I want to install the xrdp packages on that computer, make sure there's KDE Plasma X11 session installed, and connect remotely with a command line like this one. The advantages are documented at the top of this page, which means that copy-paste of text works. Let's prove that thing. So now I'm copying text from the host towards the guest, and it works. And now I'm pasting from the guest towards the host, and it works. And then when I resize this window, the FreeRDP window is going to tell KDE Plasma to resize. And it did to 900 pixels width by 512 pixels height. And then the speed is just impressively great. Feels exactly like my host operating system. with the caveat that I'm not using a GPU hardware acceleration. I'm not doing LLMs, I'm not playing games. There's also advanced features in there. There's the home drive that can be shared. And then also YouTube playback is almost acceptable. The speed of the video playback and also the fact that the sound is played back on my host computer. Okay, so since I finished installing KDE Plasma, let me do a bit of the usual settings that I do. So this welcome screen seems to reappear. I already saw this screen twice, so probably I'll need to uncheck this checkbox, toggle, launch at start. Let's see if we have bash in here. It's available. Okay. Let's see if we can make the KDE Plasma main panel not float by default. Right click on the KDE Plasma main panel, show panel configuration, floating, disabled, exit edit mode. Cool, this MOTD is too much for me. Let me configure console. I want the main menu to always be visible, hamburger menu, more, show menu bar with all actions, Ctrl Shift M. I don't want any toolbars. How do we hide them? Console main menu settings, toolbars shown, main menu, and then session toolbar. Okay. The theme is dark by default from what I see. Let's look a bit at theming. Global theme. So it says it's breeze, but it's not breeze because breeze is not dark. Yeah, I'm not sure what's incorrect in here, but maybe the default theme is this one or this one. I'm not sure why Kate would be dark mode for system settings if the global theme is breeze or light. Okay, but otherwise it seems to look okay. Let's see if I have all of the apps that I usually use. So there's Dolphin and Meld, Image Viewer, there's multiple media players, Haruna and MPV for videos, which looks okay. I have the web browser. Let's put it in the first position in the KDE Plasma main panel. I'll uncheck the things that I rarely use. The system settings unpin from taskbar. I don't use Dolphin. Let's see the graphical user interface apps that allow you to install packages. Where is that? CachyOS package installer. Search for Crusader. Manage popular packages. What is it, this thing doing? So there is a graphical user interface app. The first tab is popular applications, which doesn't have Crusader, but then the second tab is repo and it has Crusader. It doesn't say where it's going to install packages from. How do we see properties? So there's a repository CachyOS that contains both Crusader and Crusader Git. Whereas in Arch, Crusader probably is a binary package, and then Crusader Git is probably a UR package. Okay, let's install this thing. Show details. Okay. Asks for the sudo password of the current user administrator. Proceed with installation. So it seems to be actually running pacman. Respond here, press enter. Processing finished successfully. Okay. This is the list of all of the packages that can be installed. Let's see all of the installed packages. Adwaita, Alacrity, AppStream, Bash, Aurora, the Bluetooth part, many CachyOS minus packages, FFmpeg, many KDE packages, OpenSSL, OpenSSH, Perl modules, VLC. Let's see if we can install more Noto packages, all packages Noto. Okay, grayed out items have already been installed. So we have Noto fonts CJK, which is China, Japan, Korea. Emoji, let's go with extra. And what is this? Font config to enable Noto color emoji fonts where emoji can be displayed. I'm not sure why such a package would exist. Patched font Noto from Nerd's font library. Okay, so I'm guessing just this one, Noto minus fonts minus extra. Let's install. Okay. It should have remembered my sudo password. No need to ask it a second time. Within 15 minutes or something. Enter. Okay, let's configure Crusader. Where is it? Okay, real quick. 1, 2. Panel layout. Compact. View 12. Brief 12. And general viewer editor /usr /bin/kit. And that should be it. Okay, no toolbars. No status bar and an embedded terminal. I wonder how we can remove this MOTD, which again, it's not the thing for me. Okay. So package installer. The recommended way to install packages on the Arch Linux family of Linux operating systems is to actually see the output of pacman and interact with it, because pacman is going to do important things in there, which cannot be hidden as correctly as possible from the end user. Yes, that's a very advanced flow of installing packages, but it's the safe one. About. yeah, the entire operating system seems to be a really solid desktop Linux operating system. I'm going to guess that most of the Arch Linux binary packages are available here, both from the core and the extra repositories. I can see various packages from AUR being available in the default binary package repositories in CachyOS, such as the Crusader bin, Crusader-git binary package. So we probably can install the FlatHub remote with Flatpak and a app store such as the KDE Discover one to install additional packages that are not available neither in the CachyOS binary packages nor in AUR, if we want to do that. Okay, let's see what else is available. Do we have Chromium here? Yes, we do. Do we have Visual Studio Code? Open source build of Visual Studio Code. Yeah, we also have SM Player. Let's install that too. SM Player is my default video player. Qt5 base and Qt5 declarative are installed because why? What is this output? I don't know, maybe SM Player is built with Qt5 instead of Qt6. Optional dependencies for Chromium, Pipewire, KDialog, GTK4, Qt6 base. Optional dependencies for Electron 39, Qt5 base. I'm not sure what that is. Optional dependencies for Qt5 base, Qt5 SVG. Installing Qt5 declarative. Optional dependencies for SM Player, YouTube DL. Okay, so these are optional dependencies. We're going to probably want to install YT-DLP at some point. Yeah, and then it lists all of the packages that are currently installed or something. Okay. Let's see how everything works. Let's create a directory. Work. Let's see if we can start bash in here. Let's see if we can start Visual Studio Code in here. Continue without signing in. Trust. Close. Don't show. Okay. Very, very okay. Chromium web browser. I wonder how you install Zoom in here. Manage popular packages. Let's see if there's a Zoom thing. Nope. Maybe you need to install the Zoom package either from the Snap store or from the flat hub. Let's see if there's snap available. Okay. Let's install a package from flat hub, and then that should be it. Let's see if they have discover. This thing, the KDE App Store, I'm not sure what this description is. It's not a KDE Resources Management GUI, it's an App Store. Okay, and we want the Discover backend for Flatpak. Where is that? Looks okay. Proceed. The Arch Linux community recommends that you don't manage Pacman packages using the KDE App Store Plasma Discover. So make sure you're only installing, uninstalling Flatpak packages using the Discover App Store. Okay, Discover App Store. What are you trying to do? Says firmware updates. Okay, at settings, we want to somehow install the backend for FlatHub, which I'm not sure how to do, or Flatpaks. Pacman -s discover. I'm not sure what's the way to do it. Application add-ons and Plasma add-ons. So in here there should be a button to enable the backend for Flatpaks for this App Store. Okay, then we're going to try to install the other App Store, the one that's there's a ton of talk about it, so it's called Bazaar. This thing. Proceed with installation. Okay, let's install, where is the web browser? Pin to Task Manager on the first position, Chromium is on the second. Let's go to FlatHub. How do we do that? Never show bookmarks. 1, 2, 3. Remove this guy and then settings. Tabs, blank page, tabs, blank page. Download. Always ask and then suggest. Don't show search suggestions. Okay, FlatHub. Let's see how we install Flatpak and FlatHub. Okay, on which operating system? I don't know. On Arch Linux. There is EndeavourOS, but there isn't CachyOS in here. Okay, so they install Flatpak, which we have already done. And then we're adding the remote named FlatHub, correct? But we're going to do one extra thing, which is install the FlatHub remote, but just per user. Okay, Flatpak remote -add -user if not exists, FlatHub, and then the URL. Cool. Let's see the bazaar. Okay, so this looks like a GNOME style app, which is not something that I usually use. I don't really understand those apps. So we want in here to search for Zoom. This guy. Install. Anyway. Progress. Settings. Where is the settings? Preferences. Where can I see the Flatpak remotes? So I'm not sure what happened if this application has actually considered the fact that I have installed the FlatHub remote per user, or if this application is just FlatHub only, not Flatpak, not a Flatpak App Store. So it's going to ignore all of the Flatpak remotes and just go with a system FlatHub remote. Okay, let's see if the application starts. Yeah, something seems to happen. Yeah, so very pleased with the CachyOS operating system. It can be installed correctly inside a virtual machine, QEMU Virt Manager. It seems to have all of the apps that I would want. Some of the apps from Arch Linux AUR are available as binary packages from the official CachyOS Pacman repositories. When there aren't enough binary packages in the CachyOS repository, there's always the additional applications in AUR, probably. And then there's Splat Hub, and maybe if the AUR package for snapd is still around, then maybe you can still install snap packages from the Snap Store. So this is it. Thankfully, the KDE Plasma 6 X11 session still is available, which means that I could use Arch Linux the way I use other Linux operating systems with a KDE Plasma desktop. I have connected using the remote desktop protocol. It's extremely transparent. This remote desktop protocol is just a window, and you sometimes even forget that you're connected to another computer. So this is it. CachyOS did a very good job. Thank you.